It's been a few months since the start of the new year, and only now have I come to the point of sharing the story of what happened on New Year's Eve. This time my family and I decided to celebrate not in our own home, but at my mother-in-law's house. We thought it would be more fun and our relatives would come to visit from another city. So the company promised to be big and noisy. My husband, children and I arrived at my mother-in-law's house early to help with the preparations. Everything was as usual. We decorated the house, put up the Christmas tree and prepared some sweets. The relatives arrived and my mother-in-law's house was immediately filled with laughter, conversations and anticipation of the party. After greeting the guests, we almost all sat down together at the table. I must say that my mother-in-law did her best. The table had everything my soul desired and everything was in line with the New Year theme. We sat down and had a fun conversation. You know how it is at these parties, even though the situation is probably similar, somehow everyone becomes closer, more friendly. And of course we had drinks to raise the mood, from champagne to cognac. But that's why I don't remember much, but I remember clearly the moment when the fireworks went off. We all went out to set off the fireworks, all full and tipsy. Then we came back, and after reaching the freezing point, some of us decided to go into the kitchen to get away from the noise and bustle and smoke a cigarette in a quiet environment. Of course not without another round of drinks while smoking. As it is, one without the other is not that interesting. In general, time passed unnoticed in this semi-quiet atmosphere in the kitchen. All these festival experiences, the abundance of impressions and of course the alcohol were starting to take their toll. I decided to go away for a while, lie down and regain my strength. As I had hoped, the room next to the kitchen turned out to be empty, and in it was an attractively empty bed, which at that moment seemed to me a real salvation. Without giving it much thought, I decided to take advantage of this opportunity. I lay down on the bed, hoping to rest for just a few minutes, but the fatigue was stronger than me. I didn't just fall asleep, I passed out completely. It was late at night after a festive party with my relatives at my mother-in-law's house and a lot of alcohol. Slowly, I began to give myself over to its magical influence, slowly coming back to reality as if from far away. I lay on the bed without opening my eyes and was still alternating between sleep and wakefulness. Instinctively I looked for the nearest source of warmth and comfort, which for some reason was very close. Warmly and tenderly, I embraced the figure lying next to me and believed it was my partner. Very nice, I thought. I was trying to regain my strength after the party and the whole world seemed to stop for a moment in anticipation. At first I thought only of a gentle embrace, as if we were trying to find comfort and warmth in each other's arms after a long and tiring day. My hand slowly began to slide down my back, exploring every part of my skin as it got closer and closer to me. These caresses became more intense and passionate touches as we understood each other's desires without the need for words. The fluidity and ease of the moment made everything that was happening especially magical. We were both caught up in this feeling of intimacy that had been experienced for a long time in the rush of daily concerns, so that almost without realizing how much time had passed, we found ourselves as a couple in the heart of that intimacy, the highest expression of love and passion. We then lay there together for a while and inhaled the scent of the intimacy we had just experienced. I turned onto my back, took my time, my hands still lazily resting on his warm skin. Time seemed to stand still at such moments, but suddenly, in the midst of this paradise, I felt a strong, overwhelming thirst that is usually felt after a good drink. It's so hot here, I thought, feeling my insides dry up, and this desire to drink began to distract me from all other sensations. I didn't want to disturb the harmony and warmth of the forehead, but the need for water became more and more insistent. With difficulty, I tried to tear myself away from the warmth and finally opened my eyes and sat carefully on the edge of the bed. My mind was still reeling from recent events and of course the excessive alcohol. I immediately realized that I was not in my own house but in my mother-in-law's house and that my mother-in-law was lying next to me under my own blanket. What a shock! My memories of what had happened just 5 minutes before suddenly came back to me. It wasn't my wife as I had imagined in my mind's voice, it was her. What we had previously characterized as harmless flirting had taken on a new meaning. How had my mother-in-law ended up in my bed? Apparently, seeing my drunken state, my husband decided not to disturb me and quietly went home with the children and did not spend the night with my mother-in-law. Since all the other rooms were already occupied with guests, my mother-in-law had no choice but to stay with me. I had only one thought in my mind: what should I do now? Determined to break the awkward silence, I cautiously asked her if she was asleep. She calmly replied that she was not. "I'm going to take a shower," I said, trying to somehow organize my movements and thoughts. "Hurry up, or the guests will wake up soon," he replied. The unexpected morning added another detail of reality to our conversation. I got out of bed and headed to the kitchen to quench my thirst and drank about a liter of water, just what I needed after a stormy night. Then I headed to the bathroom, thinking about the shower, which was supposed to be a kind of reset after all that had happened. My mind was still spinning, thinking about the awkwardness of the situation and how everyone would look at each other at breakfast. Yes, I admit that sometimes I thought about my mother-in-law, but it was just a fantasy, nothing serious. It was just a fantasy game, you know. But I certainly didn't expect it to happen in reality, for it to go beyond the fantasy world inside me. When I finally came out of the bathroom, feeling at least a little bit better than before, I realized that my mother-in-law was no longer in the room. At first it was a bit of a relief because I wasn't ready to face her and talk to her about everything that had happened. My thoughts revolved around the upcoming conversation. Realizing that postponing this awkward but necessary conversation was only making things worse, I tried to piece together my thoughts and arguments. I thought I would have to find the words to explain that I had drunkenly mistaken her for my wife, that this was spontaneous and nothing serious. I worried about how she would feel, what her emotions and reactions would be, and I kept myself on my toes. We need to find the right time to have a serious and honest conversation that will clarify the situation, not hurt my family, and end it in a way that we can move on with our lives in peace. I convinced myself of this as I prepared for the upcoming conversation that I hoped would help us both deal with this difficult situation. As soon as morning came, the house started to come alive. One by one the guests began to wake up, adding to the bustle of a big family gathering. As soon as I had recovered from the night's adventures, my family returned and soon the house was filled with joy, laughter, and the clinking of plates during breakfast, which easily turned into lunch. The glasses were raised again and the party continued with renewed energy. Then my mother-in-law and I decided to go out for a smoke and found ourselves alone in the kitchen. At that moment I found the strength to stand on the terrace and look her in the eye and ask her what had been tormenting me for so long, why she hadn't stopped me that night, why she hadn't woken me up. Her answer froze me. He didn't want me to feel uncomfortable and would do anything for my beloved mother-in-law. These words made my heart pound and a whirlwind of emotions started spinning in my head. I couldn't even find the words to respond. The holidays passed and life seemed to be back on track. We still visited occasionally and my mother-in-law acted as if nothing special had happened between us, but the thought that I needed to sort out my feelings haunted me. Maybe I would decide to meet her alone to talk about that evening and what it meant to both of us, and maybe more than just another meeting. Did you like this story? Let us know your favorites in the comments. See you soon.